Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rob's Movie Reviews. This week I'll be doing part two of a three-part series on the most recent trilogy done by 20th Century Fox of the Planet of the Apes. Last week I reviewed Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This week I'll be talking about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Again, I feel that they did a tremendous job, again, telling the story. Wonderful writing, brilliant acting, the cinematography is outstanding. This film takes place about 10 years after the ending of the first film, where the simian flu has spread throughout the world and pretty much just wiped out about 90, I'd say about 95% of the world's human population. And Caesar has built a city in the redwood forests outside of San Francisco where him and his followers have flourished. Their numbers have increased exponentially. There's a very large ape population. And one day, while a friend of his named Rocket and Caesar's son are out hunting, they encounter a group of about 5 humans. They startle the first human they come upon. He just opens fire and wounds Rocket, and the shot is heard back at the ape city. So Caesar and a large army of apes go out to see what happened. They come upon the scene where Caesar's son is trying to protect Rocket from the humans, who now are regretting what had happened. The human in charge of the expedition, by the name of Malcolm, who is played by Jason Clarke, a very good actor, doesn't want trouble with the apes. He doesn't want to fight. We find out the reason that they're in the area is that they've come up to inspect an old hydroelectric plant that was in the area, and there are a large number of human survivors still living in San Francisco in an encampment in the heart of the city, and they've been getting their power through electric generators, but they're about to run out of fuel. They're wanting to come up and see if they can't get the old hydroelectric plant online so that they can supply power to the city. Caesar and his army surround them, tell them to leave immediately. They flee back to San Francisco, where they immediately meet up with the leader of the human survivors, a man we only know as Dreyfus, played by Gary Oldman. They tell him what happened, what they ran into, and that Caesar, or that the lead ape, who they assume is Caesar, actually spoke to them. And of course, Gary Oldman's character, Dreyfus, he doesn't want to believe this. He thinks it was all a myth, that the talking apes don't really exist. Him and Malcolm get together, and they're going over their options on what they're going to do, because they're about to run out of fuel, and with the loss of fuel will come the loss of electricity, and he's afraid that what little society they've been able to build will crumble, and total anarchy will take over, and things will go back to the way they were before they were able to gather enough people to build this encampment and establish somewhat of a society. Malcolm decides that he wants to go back up to the redwood forest and try to sit down and speak with Caesar and get his permission to work on the hydro plant. Dreyfus is opposed to this at first. He doesn't like the idea. Malcolm talks him into it. He gets Dreyfus to give him 3 days. He says, let me go up there, take a small group of people with me, give us 3 days. If we're not back in 3 days, then you can put an army together and go up there and attack the apes and try to take the plant. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. So that's exactly what Malcolm does. He goes back up to the redwood forest along with a group of other humans and a female scientist by the name of Ellie, who also serves as Malcolm's love interest in this film. They return up there. They are encountered by the apes. Caesar allows only Malcolm to enter the ape city to speak with him. Malcolm tells Caesar why they're there, what they want, that they don't want war, They don't want confrontation with the apes. They want to just coexist without confrontation. Caesar reluctantly agrees to allow them access to the old hydro plant. He is immediately met with resistance by one of his old friends who had been in the scientific research lab with him during the rise of the Planet of the Apes, a chimpanzee by the name of Koba. Koba, many terrible things were done to him in that facility. He is still angry. He still harbors hatred and discrimination for humans, and he quietly resents Caesar for allowing them to come into their territory. And behind the scenes, Koba begins to talk with other apes and to basically form a rebellion, which will come to a head a little later in the film. Caesar allows them to go in. They do their work along with the assistance of some of the apes, and they are able to get the plant back online, and power is restored to the encampment in the city. They go back to the city. Some other things come up where they need to return one more time to have a talk with Caesar. Ellie and Malcolm go back up. They take one of the people that were with them the first time around. He gets a little trigger happy because he is nervous and doesn't trust the apes, and he ends up firing a shot. And this gives Koba the excuse that he needs to turn on Caesar, and he, hiding in the bushes where no one can see him, Koba fires a shot, hitting Caesar, knocking him out of the tree that he's in. And of course, then Koba immediately blames it on the humans. It was the humans that did it. They came back to murder Caesar. He urges all the apes to avenge Caesar's death and gives the battle cry, and all the apes begin their march on San Francisco to destroy what is left of the human race. Ellie and Malcolm are able to escape with the assistance of Maurice, Caesar's very best friend that we remember from the first film. He knows that things aren't adding up, that he knows there's no way they could have done what Koba accused them of. So they managed to escape Ape City without being executed, and in their retreat, they find wounded Caesar lying in the woods. He's not actually dead. They manage to get him to a vehicle and get him back to the city ahead of the ape attack, where they know they can't take him back to the encampment or he'll be immediately killed by the humans there. So they find the house that Caesar actually grew up in during the first movie. They take him in there, in what's left of the house, and they begin nursing him back to health. And Caesar's son has also come along with them. During the time that they are nursing Caesar back to health, Koba rounds up all the apes that are still loyal to Caesar and puts them into a prison camp that he hastily constructed, while him and the rest of the apes begin the attack on the city. And it is an all-out battle. There are heavy casualties on both sides. During the fighting, Caesar and his son managed to sneak into the prison camp that Koba had constructed and free all the apes that are still loyal to him. And they go join the fight, and upon seeing Caesar still alive and fighting alongside of them, all of the majority of apes that had fallen in line with being ruled by Koba now switch their allegiance back to Caesar. The humans are basically defeated. They retreat into the underground tunnels beneath the city. Very few of them have survived. Malcolm is still alive. He manages to find Dreyfus, who has wired up explosives all through the tunnels underneath the city, and he plans to detonate them, knowing full well this will kill himself and pretty much the rest of the humans, but it will also destroy most of the apes as well. He has gone so over the deep end with his hatred towards the apes, excuse me, that he just, if his side can't win, nobody's going to survive. He's just going to destroy everybody, kill everybody. In the meantime, Caesar confronts Koba. They get into a huge fight. They're fighting it out. It looks like Koba's going to have the upper hand because Caesar's still trying to heal from his wounds caused by Koba when the explosion takes place. Fortunately, the explosives aren't as well placed as Dreyfus had hoped, and even though the underground part of the city is destroyed along with the vast majority of the human survivors, only a few of the apes are killed. During this explosion, Koba is injured, which kind of evens the odds, and him and Caesar fight it out to the end. Koba is hanging from a rafter or from a steel beam in the remains of what was once a skyscraper. Caesar, seeing what he's doing, realizing that killing Koba is not the answer, reaches out, offers his hand in friendship to save Koba's life. Koba refuses. Another small explosion happens. Koba loses his grip and falls to his death. We then find out through Malcolm, who has survived the explosions, that before detonating the explosives, Dreyfus had managed to get in contact with a military, what was left of a military outfit to the north, up around the Canadian-Washington state border, and they are already on their way to annihilate the apes. Caesar tells Malcolm to take Ellie and flee because there's no stopping it now. There's going to be a massive war, and if the humans coming think for 1 second that he's friends with Caesar, they're going to kill Malcolm and Ellie as well. He tells them, just go on, get out, go wherever you have to go, but bad things, there's a world of hurt getting ready to go down here, get out. And that's pretty much where the story of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes ends. It's a setup for the final edition of the trilogy entitled War for the Planet of the Apes, which we will go into in the next review. I'd just like to take a moment to give a shout out to Mr. Matt Reeves, who directed this film. I think he did a brilliant job. He took what was a great script and probably made it even better. The cinematography in this film was absolutely wonderful. The acting, like I said before, was outstanding. You've got Gary Oldman. You can't go wrong with Gary Oldman. Jason Clarke was wonderful as Malcolm. Kerry Russell as Ellie was fantastic. Toby Cabell, who portrayed Koba in the film, did an excellent job. He was also wonderful. And Judy Greer, who played Cornelia, Caesar's wife, who actually, I forgot to mention, gives birth to Caesar's second child just shortly before the war with the humans breaks out. She also does a wonderful job. And of course, Andy Serkis. Again, an outstanding, in my opinion, an Academy Award-worthy performance. This man just gets better and better with each film that he does. He is truly the premier CGI actor. He's so wonderful with conveying emotions and inner turmoil and just anything that he wants you to understand about his character. He is just so good at conveying that with basically using only facial expressions and body language. Now, he does have more speaking parts in this film, as do some of the other apes, because as time is passing, they're becoming even more intelligent. They're beginning to rely a little less, even though they still lean heavily towards using sign language as their main form of communication. They are beginning to speak more. But with that aside, Andy Serkis is again brilliant with his body and facial expression acting. There's just nobody else in Hollywood that even comes close to his abilities. And with that, and I also want to mention that, again, this film was released by 20th Century Fox. It came out in 2014. It was the second installment to the newly revised Planet of the Apes trilogy. It is, in a lot of ways, very similar to the film from the original series. that was called Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Even though it's not in any way a direct remake of that film, there are strong similarities, as was with the first film, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. There were very strong similarities in that film to the film from the original series, Conquest for the Planet of the Apes. The two films are absolutely brilliant. And like I said, next week I'm going to go into a review of War of the Planet of the Apes. So until then, I hope to see you back here, and you all take care.